The rain poured hard over Manhattan, soaking the sidewalks and turning the streets into mirrors of shimmering light. Neon signs from luxury boutiques reflected in the puddles, casting a surreal glow across the pavement. Under the awning of a high-end fashion store, a young woman sat curled tightly, knees against her chest. Lily Adams was 22, though she felt far older. Her long, wavy blonde hair was damp and clung to her cheeks, peeking out from under the hood of a faded gray sweatshirt. Her backpack, torn and patched with tape, slumped beside her, carrying everything she owned. She had been homeless for over 6 months. Her mother died of cancer when Lily was 17. Her father had vanished long before that. Lily had done everything she could to stay afloat. Worked odd jobs, applied for scholarships, held onto a studio apartment for as long as she could until one missed payment turned into eviction and one job loss became a landslide. Still, she had her art. Clutched to her chest, wrapped carefully in plastic, was a leather sketchbook. Inside were drawings she refused to let the world take. Fairy tale scenes, children's book illustrations, portraits of people she remembered or imagined when hunger took over. It was all she had left of who she once wanted to be. Her stomach growled. She ignored it. Rain dripped from the awning, soaking her shoes. She shivered, pulling her cardigan tighter, wishing for something warm. Food, a voice, anything. Then screeching tires. She looked up fast. A white-silver blur darted across the road. A golden retriever, beautiful, but panicked, bolted into the street as a black Porsche came skidding around the corner. Lily didn't think, she just moved. She sprinted off the curb and into the road, arms out. The golden retriever slipped, eyes wide. The Porsche's horn blared. Lily lunged forward, grabbing the dog and tumbling out of the way just as the car slammed its brakes, stopping inches from them. For a second, there was silence, except the pounding of her heart. The golden retriever shook against her, soaked and trembling. "It's okay," she whispered, holding him close. "I got you." People had stopped to look. No one came forward. No collar, no leash. No one claimed him. Lily stood up slowly. The dog pressed against her leg, silent but trusting. "Let's get out of here," she murmured. She led him through alleys and back streets to the only place she could have forgotten, warehouse, behind an old parking garage. She pried the rusted door open. Inside, the air was musty and damp, but it was dry. She laid him gently on a thin blanket she'd found weeks ago. Then she pulled out her emergency towel, meant for her, and began drying his thick fur. Underneath the mud, he was stunning. His warm brown eyes watched her every move. Calm now. She reached into her bag and pulled out her last can of food-baked beans. She opened it with her knife, poured it onto the lid, and placed it in front of him. He sniffed, then ate quietly. Lily sat down beside him. Her fingers brushed through his damp fur. "You almost didn't make it, huh?" she whispered. He paused to look at her. "We're kind of the same," she said, both a little lost. She leaned against the wall. The cold seeped into her bones, so she took off her cardigan and wrapped it around him. Carefully, she tucked the sleeves under his chin. "I'll call you Max," she said. Max let out a soft breath and curled beside her, his warmth soaked into her skin. The rain kept falling, beating gently on the tin roof above. Lily closed her eyes, one hand on his back. And in that dark, forgotten warehouse, a girl who had nothing and a dog with no name shared something rare, a moment of safety. They slept. The next morning, the sound came softly. At first, a dull, rhythmic knock against the rusted metal door of the warehouse. Lily stirred on the cold floor, her body stiff from the hard concrete and the night's chill. Beside her, Max lifted his head from her cardigan and let out a quiet whine. The knocking came again, firmer this time. Lily sat up, heart pounding. No one ever came here. Her first thought was that someone had come to drive her out. She reached a steady Max, but the dog perked up, and before she could stop him, bounded toward the door, tail wagging. He barked loud and eager, the happiest sound she'd heard from him. Lily hesitated, brushing dust from her jeans. Slowly, she crossed the floor and unlatched the door. A tall man in a black suit stood outside, rain dripping from the collar of his coat. His tie hung loose, his hair damp, and his eyes deep brown. Searching widened the instant he saw Max. "Max!" He gasped. The golden retriever yelped and leapt into his arms. The man dropped to his knees, gripping the dog tight, pressing his face into the wet fur as if anchoring himself there. Lily stepped back, blinking in confusion. The whole scene felt unreal. The man finally looked up, breath unsteady. "I've been looking everywhere for him," he said, voice raw. "All night." Max wagged his tail, pressed close to the man's leg. "Home. I found him in the rain," Lily said quietly. "No collar. He almost got hit by a car." The man nodded, still catching his breath. "He slipped his leash yesterday while I was walking with my daughter. We searched all night." He straightened and extended a hand. "I'm Ethan." "Ethan Brooks?" Lily only nodded, clutching the edge of her flannel shirt. The cardigan she'd given Max still wrapped around him. Ethan looked around the warehouse. The folded blanket, the empty can on the floor, the old leather sketchbook tucked beneath a cloth. His gaze lingered on the cardigan. "That's yours, isn't it?" Lily didn't answer. He stepped closer, carefully, his voice softer now. "You gave him your food," he said, noticing the open can and your jacket. Lily looked down. "He was cold," she murmured and scared. Ethan's expression shifted. Something unguarded flickered behind his tired eyes. Then quietly, he said, "You didn't just save a dog. You saved a piece of my daughter's heart." Lily looked up, startled by the emotion in his tone. He took a breath. "Max was a birthday gift for my daughter Mia. She just turned 4. Her mother, my wife, passed away recently. Since then, he's been the only thing that makes her smile." Lily's lips parted, but no words came. Ethan continued softly. "Yesterday, we went for a walk in the park. Mia was laughing, holding the leash, and then Max bolted after a squirrel. She cried herself to sleep last night." He looked at Lily, eyes shining faintly with exhaustion and gratitude. "Before bed, she asked me, 'Daddy, do you think someone nice found him?' And I told her, 'I hope so.'" His voice faltered. Lily lowered her gaze. She hadn't expected her small act of kindness, saving a stray, in the rain, to carry this kind of weight. Ethan knelt again, hugging Max, close his hand, trembling slightly in the dog's fur. When he rose, he looked directly at her. "What's your name?" he asked. "Lily," she said barely above a whisper. He nodded, his face softening. "Well, Lily, he said you were exactly the person I was hoping had found him." For a long moment, neither spoke. Rain pattered gently on the metal roof above them. Max's tail brushed against her leg, as if to bridge the space between two lives that had just collided. And for the first time in months, Lily didn't feel invisible. Ethan stood in the center of the warehouse for a moment, hand resting on Max's head. The air between him and Lily felt heavy, not tense, but tender. The kind of silence that lingers when you want to say something, but don't know how. "Thank you," he said again. Slower this time. Lily nodded. She sat on the edge of the blanket, arms wrapped around her knees. Her damp clothes clung to her skin, and her bare feet peeked out from the hem of her jeans, reddened from the cold. Ethan's eyes softened. She looked small in that space, young and worn, yet strong. "Look," he said gently. "I know you don't know me, but let me help. It's the least I can do." Lily tensed. "You don't have to do that. I'm fine." Max barked and walked over, nudging her arm with his nose. Then he tugged her sleeve lightly between his teeth. Ethan smiled. "I think he disagrees." Lily gave a faint smile. "He's got opinions." Ethan stepped closer. "This isn't pity. You're not a charity case. You're someone who saved my daughter's heart." Her eyes met his, startled by the sincerity. She hadn't heard anyone speak to her like that in a long time. After a pause, she nodded. "Just for a little while until I figure things out. That's all I ask." They left quietly. Max jumped into the back seat of a silver Tesla. Lily climbed into the front, holding her sketchbook on her lap like it might disappear. As they drove through the city, raindrops streaked across the windows. Lily stared out in silence. Ethan didn't speak, just turned on soft jazz and focused on the road. It was the first time she had been in a car in months. They wound up into the hills. The streets quieted. The houses grew larger. Ethan's home appeared behind a hedge, modern but warm, with soft yellow lights glowing from the porch and a rain-soaked garden by the walkway. As the front door opened, a small voice shouted, "Max!" A little girl, in a pink dress, came running down the hall, her curly hair bouncing. Her eyes lit up the moment she saw the dog. "Max!" She threw her arms around him, laughing and crying all at once. Ethan knelt beside her. "He's okay, Mia. He's home." Mia hugged the dog tight, then looked up and saw Lily. She paused, blinking, then whispered, "Are you the angel who found him?" Lily's throat tightened. She nodded. "I just helped." Mia looked at her a moment longer, then smiled wide and sincere and turned back to Max. Inside the house was warm and filled with soft light. Books framed pictures and art lined the walls. Lily hovered by the door cardigan draped over her arm. "I'll make tea," Ethan said. "Sit wherever you like." She stepped into the living room slowly. Her eyes landed on a large canvas above the fireplace, half finished. A woman in a white dress stood in a glowing field. Her face was detailed, but the rest was unfinished, the brush strokes fading into empty space. Mia appeared beside her. "That's Mommy," she said softly. "Daddy started it, but never finished." Lily stared at the painting, her heart quiet. "I think he misses her," Mia whispered. Lily looked down, then back at the portrait. "Yeah," she said gently. "I think so too." The morning light poured gently through the kitchen windows, casting a soft glow over the wooden countertops and the pale blue ceramic mugs Ethan had set out. The smell of toasted bread and scrambled eggs filled the air. It was simple. No fancy presentation, no elaborate garnish, but it was warm, real, and nourishing. Lily sat at the small breakfast table, her posture cautious. She wore one of Ethan's extra cardigans. It draped over her shoulders like borrowed comfort, and her fingers trembled slightly as she reached for her fork. Ethan placed a plate in front of her toast with a generous spread of strawberry jam, a side of eggs, and slices of apple. He slid into the seat across from her with his own plate and a quiet smile. Mia skipped into the room, still in her pajamas covered in tiny dancing clouds. She held something tightly in her small hands. "I made you something," she announced, proudly climbing onto the chair beside Lily. Lily blinked, startled. "You did?" Mia opened her palms and gently pressed a blue ribbon into Lily's hand. A tiny satin ribbon with a crooked hand-stitched L in one corner. "It's mine, but I want you to have it," Mia said, "because you found Max." Lily looked down at the little gift, her chest tightened. "Thank you," she whispered, brushing a loose strand of blonde hair behind her ear. "It's beautiful." Ethan sipped his coffee, watching the exchange silently. As they ate, he finally asked, "Where did you learn to draw like that?" Lily glanced up. Her voice was quiet but steady. "From my mom," she used to say, "even when we have nothing, we still have beauty. We can make it if we know where to look." There was a pause. Ethan didn't interrupt. Lily continued, eyes focused on her plate. "She passed away when I was 17. Cancer. After that, I tried to hold everything together. Worked, studied, paid rent. I thought I could make it work." She swallowed. "But then there was a small car accident. I missed work, fell behind on bills. Medical costs stacked up. I lost the apartment. And once you fall that far, it's hard to climb back." Silence followed. Ethan didn't speak. He just reached for the teapot and poured her another cup. The quiet was not heavy. It was understanding, shared without the pressure to fix anything. It said, "I hear you." Lily looked up briefly, caught his gaze, and gave him a grateful nod. Just then, Mia hopped down from her chair. "Wait here," she said excitedly, and ran from the kitchen. A few seconds later, she returned, holding a slightly ragged stuffed bear, one ear, missing the fabric worn and stitched in places. She offered it to Lily. Max chewed this when he missed Mommy, she explained solemnly. Maybe he chewed it because he missed you too. Lily let out the softest laugh. Her hand reached out to gently touch the toy's frayed paw. He's a good boy, she said, glancing at the dog, dozing near the window. He knew where he needed to go. Max thumped his tail once in agreement, still half asleep. Later that morning, while Lily was repacking her things in the guest room, Mia wandered in and spotted the leather sketchbook. What's in there? She asked, eyes wide with curiosity. Lily hesitated, then smiled. Want to see? She opened the book carefully and spread out a few sheets on the floor. The drawings were soft and dreamlike. Little girls in floating dresses, animals reading books, forests full of wonder. A whimsical world sketched in fine lines and quiet colors. Mia gasped. They look like magic. Ethan, hearing the commotion, entered the room and walked slowly to where the drawings lay. He crouched down beside them, studying each one. Then his eyes stopped on a particular piece. It was a sketch of a girl in a gray cardigan, kneeling on a wet street, arms wrapped around a golden retriever. The scene from the night before, captured with startling emotion. He looked up at Lily. You drew this already? She nodded. I didn't want to forget. Ethan stared at the image for a long time. Then he said, almost to himself, these deserve to be seen by the world. The morning after had the kind of stillness only Sundays knew. No traffic, no buzzing phones, just the quiet hum of a house waking with the sun. Lily stood by the door, backpack and sketchbook in hand, ready to leave. Ethan lingered in the kitchen, one hand around a mug, the other resting on the counter. He looked like he wanted to speak, but hadn't found the words yet. Just as she reached for the doorknob, his voice stopped her. Tomorrow's Sunday. I don't go to the office. He said, his tone casual, but his eyes not. She turned curious. He cleared his throat. If you don't mind staying another day? She raised an eyebrow. Mia really likes you, he added. I thought maybe you could draw something for her. Just a little memory. Her and Max. Lily looked into the living room, where Mia sat curled with the dog, tracing little circles on his fur, giggling softly. The scene was light warm, like sunlight. A small smile tugged at her lips. Just one day, she agreed. By late morning, Lily sat cross-legged on the back porch, her worn watercolor set laid out around her. Mia had lent her a cream-colored sweater, soft, a little oversized, and smelling faintly of clean laundry and strawberry shampoo. The yard was peaceful. Flowering shrubs lined the fence. A breeze rustled the trees. Mia chased Max across the grass, her laughter ringing like wind chimes. Ethan sat nearby, a newspaper in hand, though he barely turned a page. His eyes drifted again and again toward the yard. Lily's brush moved steadily, her gaze dancing between her paper and the joyful scene unfolding. She took in the bounce of Mia's curls, the blur of Max's wagging tail, the unfiltered joy on both their faces. The world slowed. By noon, the painting was done. Lily called softly, Mia, come here. The little girl came running, cheeks flushed, hair tangled. I made this for you, Lily said, offering the watercolor. Mia gasped. It's us. She tilted the paper, squinting. Then her eyes widened. Daddy, you're in it too. Ethan looked up surprised. I am. He walked over, took the paper, and stared. He had expected to see Mia and Max in the garden, but there, shaded beneath the oak tree, stood a man's sleeves rolled sketchpad in hand, watching them. It was him, but not the version he saw in the mirror. This one looked softer. Present his expression, gentle, his eyes focused on his daughter, full of something he hadn't known someone could capture. He was quiet a long time. I didn't ask you to draw me, he said. Lily shrugged slightly. I drew what I saw. Ethan's voice dropped. I've never seen myself like that before. Not in a suit, not with a title, just a dad. His throat tightened. Thank you for seeing that, for seeing me. Before Lily could reply, Mia dashed away and returned with a crumpled pink paper in hand. I made one too, she announced proudly, giving it to Lily. Drawn in crayon were 3 stick figures, one small, 2 taller, and beside them, a dog with a tail that swirled like a lollipop. "That's me," Mia said, pointing. "That's Daddy, and that's you." The third figure had long yellow scribbles for hair. Above them was a single word written in shaky, loving handwriting: family. Lily blinked quickly, her chest tightening. She ran a finger across the paper. For a long moment she said nothing, just held the picture gently, like something fragile and irreplaceable. That evening, the house fell into its quiet rhythm. Lily sat by the kitchen window, a lukewarm cup of tea in her hands. On the fridge beside her, Mia's crayon masterpiece had been pinned up with a smiley face magnet. Her own sketchbook rested open in her lap. She looked down at the painting, Mia and Max in the sun, and Ethan beneath the tree, not leading, not commanding, just there. She traced the edge of the page lightly, her eyes lingering on the way she had painted his hands. Not powerful, but steady. Behind her soft footsteps. Ethan stood in the doorway, a fresh cup of coffee in hand, his eyes gentle. He did not speak. He did not have to. He just smiled. And this time, it stayed. A week had passed, and Lily's life had shifted in ways she never expected. The portfolio she once guarded like a secret had landed in the hands of a children's book editor thanks to Ethan. He had sent it quietly, with no fanfare, just a note. "I thought maybe someone else should see what I see." Now she was invited to a private meet and greet brunch for young illustrators and authors. It was set for Sunday morning. She had thought a lot about it, not only what to say or who to meet, but something more basic, what to wear. That question had sat with her for days. She had nothing that felt right for this new world. On Saturday evening, as the sky dimmed into gold, Ethan knocked on her guest room door. In his hands was a box. Lily looked up. "What's that?" "Just something Mia and I put together," he said, setting it gently on the bed. Inside was a soft linen dress, flowing off-white, with delicate hand-painted floral patterns along the hem and cuffs. "She picked the dress," he explained. "I just added a few strokes, nothing fancy." Lily ran her fingers over the petals. Her breath caught. No one had ever done something like this for her before. I don't know what to say." "You don't have to," Ethan replied. "Just be you." The next morning, Lily stood at the gallery's entrance in the dress, her hair tied back with Mia's little ribbon. She didn't look glamorous. She looked like herself, calm, real quietly luminous. Inside the room buzzed with soft conversations, clinking glasses, and warm introductions. She moved slowly, stopping to admire the colorful displays covers she had once only dreamed of. An older man in a pressed suit approached her, a name tag pinned to his blazer. "Lovely dress," he said. "Are you one of the new illustrators?" "Yes," she replied, a little shy. "My first event like this." He smiled. "Where did you study?" "I was in school," she answered truthfully, but dropped out. "I've mostly drawn on sidewalks, napkins, whatever I could find." The man blinked. A few others nearby heard. There were soft chuckles, not mocking, but patronizing. "Oh," he said. "Cooler now? Well, best of luck." Lily nodded and stepped away. From across the room, Ethan had seen it happen. He made his way toward her. "Are you all right?" he asked softly. "I'm fine," she said quickly. "Really?" But her eyes shimmered. Before he could say more, she turned and slipped outside to the terrace. That night, the house was quiet. Mia had gone to bed. Lily wandered into the garden, barefoot in the grass sketchbook in her lap. Stars blinked overhead like distant lanterns. She was heading inside when a voice floated through the open kitchen window. "Ethan, I just want to make sure she gets the chance she deserves," he was saying. "But I can't risk this becoming something that reflects poorly on the company. You know how fast these stories spread." Pause then. Yes, she's talented, but talent's not always enough. Lily froze. His voice didn't sound unkind. It sounded careful, measured like she was a factor in an equation, a variable to be managed. She stepped away from the window and returned to the guest room, stomach hollow. Sitting on the edge of the bed, she stared at the folded dress beside her. Her fingers touched the painted flowers once so full of meaning. But now, Ethan's words echoed. I can't risk her affecting the company's image. So this was it. A gesture, yes, but also a story. A quiet rescue. A fixable narrative. Her chest tightened. She had thought she was being seen. But now, for the first time since meeting him, she didn't feel seen at all. She felt handled. The guest room was quiet, filled with the faint light of early morning. Shadows from the window stretched across the floor, soft and blue. Lily sat on the edge of the bed, carefully sliding her sketchbook into the frayed backpack she had carried through too many places. Her fingers trembled, even as she tried to keep her movements calm. She didn't want to cry. Not here. Not like this. As she zipped the last pocket, the door creaked. Ethan stood in the doorway, holding 2 mugs of coffee. His sleeves were rolled, his expression unreadable, but alert. One look at Lily, and he seemed to know. You're leaving? He asked, voice low. She nodded, eyes on the floor. Where will you go? I'll figure it out, she said, brushing hair behind her ear. He stepped inside and set the mugs down. Lily, talk to me. What happened? She looked up, and for the first time, there was no defensiveness, just hurt. If I hadn't been homeless, if I didn't have a sad story, would you have brought me here? Ethan froze. What are you talking about? She took a breath. I heard you last night. You said I might affect your company's image. His shoulders dropped. That wasn't what it sounded like. Then what was it? He moved closer. It was a legal call. Standard procedure. They asked about background checks before anything went forward with the publisher. I wanted to make sure nothing about this hurt you or them. You don't need to protect me, she said, her voice trembling slightly. I wasn't trying to manage you. I was trying to help. Lily shook her head. It felt like I was being shaped into something, like I was part of some perfect narrative. Ethan frowned. That's not how I see you. She looked at him, steady now. I didn't need to be saved. I needed someone to believe in me as I am. He didn't reply. The silence between them was too full. Lily walked past him, slow but certain. On the kitchen table, she left a small sketch. No note, no frame. It was a drawing of the white linen dress she'd worn now, hanging in a sunlit window, gently swaying in the breeze. Empty. That night dinner was quiet at the Brooks house. Mia pushed her peas around her plate, not speaking. Ethan barely touched his food. Where's Miss Lily? Mia asked, finally looking up. She needed some space, Ethan answered. Mia looked down, then reached into her bag and pulled out a drawing. She flattened it carefully. It was one of her usual stick figure scenes. A man, a little girl, a woman, and a dog with a big tail. Except now, the woman in the middle had no face. She forgot her face, Mia whispered. Ethan blinked. What Mia touched the blank space with her finger. If someone doesn't have anyone who loves them, can we just love them more? Ethan stared at the drawing. Then quietly he stood and walked to the table. He picked up Lily's sketch, the one with the dress in the window. His hand hovered over it for a moment before he turned and walked to his study. Inside, he opened a drawer and pulled out a crumpled paper, Mia's first gift to Lily. A drawing labeled Family, with 3 figures holding hands and Max wagging beside them. He held both sketches side by side. A dress no one wore. A family missing someone. It wasn't about saving her. It never had been. She wasn't asking to be lifted out of the storm just for someone to stand with her in it. Ethan closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them again. Gaze steadier, he turned off the light and left the room. Not to fix things, not to be a hero, but to choose her to stay. 2 weeks had passed. Lily now lived in a small studio apartment above a bookstore just a few blocks from the publishing house. It was quiet, sunlit in the mornings, and for the first time in a long while hers. She hadn't heard from Ethan. She hadn't reached out either. But every evening, she opened her sketchbook and drew always the same 2 subjects, a little girl in a pink dress and a golden dog at her heels, and often in the background, the shadow of a man always turned away, always watching. This was the quiet ache she lived with, and yet it did not feel like loss. It felt like something still unfolding. That Saturday, the publishing house hosted a small exhibition for new illustrators. Lily had been invited to display 3 pieces. Her hands trembled a little when she saw them framed on the wall, but there they were hers. The central painting was titled Rainy Encounter. It captured a sun-drenched yard, a little girl laughing with her dog, and a man sitting in the background sketching quietly a white linen dress taking shape on his page. What she didn't know was that just beyond the archway of the gallery, Ethan stood silently with Mia beside him. Max sat at their feet, tail swishing against the floor. Ethan's gaze landed on the centerpiece his breath caught. Mia looked up at him and whispered, "Do you see it now?" Ethan nodded slowly. "I do now. I really do." After the event, Lily stepped outside into the garden behind the building, hoping for a moment of quiet. The air was cool, soft, with the fading light of afternoon. She sat on a wooden bench, exhaling, and then she saw it. A small white box sat neatly on the bench beside her. Inside was the blue ribbon Mia had once pressed into her palm, the one with the embroidered L. Beneath it, a folded drawing, a pencil sketch, clean and deliberate. It showed her wearing the white dress with hand-painted flowers. She was standing in a field of blooms. Her hair was windblown. Her eyes were peaceful. At her side stood Max, looking up at her tail mid-wag. On the back of the drawing was a note written in Ethan's familiar handwriting. "You never needed saving. You just needed someone who'd stay. Rain or shine." Her throat tightened. She didn't hear him approach. Only the quiet patter of small feet. Lily turned. Mia stood there clutching Ethan's hand. Max barked softly and trotted toward her. Ethan stepped forward, his voice gentle. No speeches, no apologies, just one question. He looked into her eyes. "Do you want to come home with us?" Lily paused, her gaze drifting between the man in front of her, the little girl at his side, and the dog now resting his head on her knee. She smiled, tears just beginning to glisten. "Only if it's my home too," she said quietly. "Not because I was asked, but because I choose it." Ethan's hand found hers. "You'll always have the right to choose. That's what love looks like." Later that week, the backyard of the Brooks home was alive with light and laughter. Lily sat on the grass. Mia tucked beside her, Max curled at their feet. Ethan sketched nearby, quietly smiling. Mia held up her latest drawing. 4 stick figures stood hand in hand, the sun smiling above them. A little pink heart floated beside one word, written in bold block letters. Home. Maybe this story touched something inside you, a moment you lived, a feeling you once carried. If it did, share your thoughts or your own experience in the comments, and tell me where you're watching from, so I can create more stories just for you.